Hello, and thank you for tuning into Small Talk. I'm your host, Sharon, and today we'll be discussing domestic violence. Domestic violence is a willful intimidation, physical assault, battery, sexual assault, and other abusive behaviors as part of a systematic pattern of power and control perpetuated by one intimate partner against another. And today my guest is Laura Harris, the Director of Domestic Relations Service, Juvenile and Domestic Relations District Court for Fairfax County. Thank you, Laura, for being here today with us.
Thank you for the invitation.
I have to say to the audience first, I volunteer for domestic violence for Fairfax County, and this is how I met Miss Laura Harris. She came in for the second intro to hype everybody up. And after she finished speaking to us, I wanted to sign up for everything. I said, I want to do my duty and help out with domestic violence. Now, I do know in October of 1981, domestic violence, we had one day for domestic violence to unite combated abused people. Because I say people because people don't realize men and women both are.
Correct.
And that's something that I learned when you spoke with us that I had not realized is that men also can be abused.
Oh, yes.
We always think it's women, right? But men also can be abused. And now it's grown to a whole month.
That's correct. We're very proud of that. I don't know how much you want me to talk about it because once I get started, I can't stop.
No, I want you to inform. The main reason why you're here is to bring awareness to it, because some people think that it's not happening or we have a good handle on it. And at one point you even said, oh, it's almost like an epidemic.
Correct. Let me give you an idea. When we talk DV, domestic violence, it crosses all spectrums.
Okay.
Think about it, all sexes, all ages. And you know, we always forget to include what I call the silent victims,
right.
The children. And why I'm so excited is now we're dealing with that. Fairfax County has now, is funding a position to deal with the children who are the victims and have witnessed domestic violence. Let me just give you an idea. You know, I'm the oldie, like the dinosaur of the sea. In Fairfax County, thousands of calls are made to the police. In Fairfax County, almost 1,000 protective orders are filed here in Fairfax County. And what that is where a victim finally, and I have to share with you, before a victim makes a call, it takes them 8 attempts before they finally make that call and say, help. Think about that. 8 attempts, okay? And, you know, I've been with the county a long time. This county has over 1 million residents. So now think about, we get numerous calls on DV, the police department. Then we have our hotline, and I hope to share with you, I'm so proud of Fairfax County because it has a holistic and systematic approach in dealing with DV. We have our board of supervisors who have recognized how important this is. And in fact, one of our board of supervisors, Supervisor Cook, chairs our policy commission. And I'm going to use some terms I don't expect everyone to remember. It's called the DVPPCC committee.
Okay.
And don't even try it. As staff, we get a little confused. And that's the policy making.
Okay.
So I want you to think about this almost, it's like lasagna.
Okay.
The top part is that DVPPCC, which deals with setting the policy. We have the leaders of all of Fairfax County agencies and nonprofits who come to this meeting to look at what are the needs of DV, where are we going, where's our policy, and I'll talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
Then we have another layer that we deal with. We have a domestic violence action center. And how old am I? We were part of that in court services in working on that Domestic Violence Action Center. Now we actually have a place at the old courthouse where victims can meet with advocates and lawyers and all types of holistic services.
Now, where's the old courthouse?
4000 Chambridge Road. I'm very proud of that because that's where I started working many, many years ago.
What I forgot to mention in my introduction on for Ms. Harris is that she's been with the county for 30 plus years, and she's actually going to be retiring in like 3 weeks. So we were lucky to get her here today. So I really want you to try to give us as much information.
Oh, I'm going to share with you, and I'm telling all my folks, I'm not dying. I'm going to still be around. I'm volunteering on a number, and DV is part of my soul.
Right.
So my job, and you've heard me say this, is to almost be like a shot. And I'm giving everyone a shot that they're going to get this advocacy for the whole issue of DV. Again, remember this range. All women, men, children, all ages, all professions. I've seen my own pastor, doctors, lawyers. DV affects everyone long term. So when I was describing that lasagna, and we have the one that sets the policy, then we have something called the Domestic Violence Action Center, which is partially funded not only by the federal government, but also Fairfax County. And it is, I love this, it's a holistic approach. We have folks from county agencies. We have a compliance officer who monitors protective orders. Right. We have someone who are lawyers to help them, because I remember a time when a victim would go to court and they were expected to put on their case. And it wasn't good. Right. Because the batterer would go
right
in
there
because they got the resources. Remember the whole power and control wheel.
Right.
And so the batterer would go in with the best of lawyers. And what I used to see in the old courthouse, they would say to the victim, hey, look, if you drop your charges, I'll pay the rent. I'll pay the utilities. Well, guess what? You can't do that anymore. Because in our protective order now, a judge can say, no, you can't turn off the rent. You have to provide the utilities. Think about that, what that means.
That's empowering them.
There you go. Now we're dealing with the issues of support and custody, because the batterer is wise and will try to manipulate. Well, that's changed, all right? So at the Domestic Violence Action Center, we also have advocates, which is unbelievable. And I need to say we also take volunteers to help the advocates. So anyone who doesn't know about that, they can contact me at the court or get in contact with DVAC. But the most important, we have these advocates who now accompany the victim to court. And let me tell you why that's important. When you've been battered so long, you lose your presence of who you are.
Right.
You may drive a car, but you don't even know how to get there. Right. So to come to the courthouse, and I always tell folks, the first thing when you come into the courthouse, we have great security. But imagine when you're a victim and the first person that greets you says, raise your hands, and they're going to warn you. And I got a baby in a stroller.
Right.
All right? So these advocates will accompany you to the court. They will help you in the process. They will bring them to the intake unit. We'll assist them in filing the protective order, or what we call the preliminary protective order. We now have lawyers who will go to court with you in the final protective order hearing. You're talking about empowering these people. What a wonderful feeling. And if you come to domestic relations, especially J&D in court, we even have a playroom for the children. I remember when we didn't have that.
That is awesome, because you have to usually take the child with you, right?
There you go. And it's not only that. When I'm a victim, I don't think about bringing my Pampers. I don't think about bringing something to feed the children. All of that we've got covered.
In the courtroom, in the courthouse.
In intake unit, we get donations of people who will bring us in Pampers. They will bring us in whatever snacks, baby, what do you call them, little cookies, the animal cookies.
Oh, the animal cookies.
We're always looking for toys and things like that because, and I have to tell you a real feeling for me, to have a child wait in a courthouse or outside a courtroom, that's a very frightening thing.
It's scary.
And imagine you're listening, and I'm going to talk about these women victims. Mama is sitting there retelling that story. You see, the children have witnessed it, and anybody who says children don't hear or they have never seen anything, in their heart, they're not telling the truth. We now know there are videos that will tell you that when a woman is pregnant, that child in uterine will be responding to those noises.
We learned it in the training.
We saw it, okay?
Yes, we saw it in the training.
And I tell people that. And I tell that not only to victims, but to batterers, the long-term effects. So that's why when a child comes to court, we want to ease that tension, you see?
Right.
But most important is think of the process. Phone call is made.
Right.
I need help. Police come out. Well, I remember a time when the police didn't even have cell phones.
Right, right.
Now they can get in contact with the hotline or with a victim advocate. They can do lethality stuff, which means I can evaluate the risks and we can share that with the victim, because so many times the victim will make that call and change their mind.
Right.
And people become upset about it, but it's because they don't understand the cycle of violence. When I'm controlled like that, when I'm isolated from my family.
Because that's the first thing they do, right?
That is exactly
From
it.
friends and family, pull you away from
Right.
who you love and who will help you not become a victim.
Exactly. Then I'm going to start playing around with, you may be working, but I'll say you bring that paycheck into me, all right? I will isolate you. I will control you. And that hurts. Imagine for the child. And sometimes they'll even go after their own pets. And now we even have a program. If you go into one of our shelters, you can bring your pet with you. See, we're starting to think about the whole thing.
The whole unit, the whole family unit.
And we have to give Fairfax County, now we're dealing with the issue of trauma. You see,
Right.
a lot of times the legal profession didn't understand, why does the victim drop the case after all of
Why do they go back?
Exactly.
Why don't they leave? This is what we
Exactly.
hear a lot. Why don't they
And
leave?
Because they didn't understand trauma. They didn't understand. My line is walk a mile in their shoes.
Right,
All right?
right.
And now they're starting to understand it. So Fairfax County has a whole new, I don't want to call it policy. They're putting their energy and resources in dealing with trauma. So when you're dealing with DV, we're also dealing with trauma.
Because they go hand in hand.
They go together. All right. So the process is, if you're going to make that phone call, the police are going to come out. They're going to interview you. They're going to have you talk to someone on the hotline,
Right.
which is staffed 24 hours, and they can use volunteers.
Yes, they can.
And anybody of this audience who says, "What can I do?" Get in contact with me. We can use you. You
Definitely.
can give your time. You can come and volunteer actually physically. You can donate things,
Right.
snacks. Our domestic violence action center, they have a clothing place.
Right.
Because a lot of times when the victim has to go to court, I've seen women come in their pajamas. I'm not kidding about you. You know, it was quite clear. And some bedroom shoes. When I want to run, I'm going to run.
Right. And also, too, you have to realize when they're fed up, they're fed up. I've got the strength and power to do this. I'm going to do this now because I might change my mind.
And that's why we have the services now with our great advocates, these great social workers who will meet them where they are at. And our police, I have to give shout outs to
Right.
the police force, because I remember when they started putting all their resources in DV. They have DV or domestic violence detectives. That's a shout out right there.
That's true.
In different jurisdictions. And now when those calls are made and complaints are made, they look through with them. They go meet with the victim. They interview. Then we have victim services,
Right.
which is another form of advocates who will go out there. And they will guide them to the court. And what I love about it is we empower the victim. Right. They make the call. They may not be ready to file.
Right,
for
and
it.
that's when, because I'm doing the hotline,
All
and
right.
I'm also doing co-advocacy,
Okay.
which we'll talk about that in a little while. And the one thing that when I was trained, while being trained, they said, you just have to meet the person where they are, which basically means if they're not ready, okay, let's make a plan. How do you get out?
Safety
when you're
plan.
ready, right?
Exactly.
A safety plan, that's right. When you're ready, who are you going to call?
And they
Where
have
you
little
gonna go?
cards. And they've identified, when you can be hooked up to a person, that's why I'm glad you're volunteering. When you can say to me, I'm there for you.
Right.
Remember, I've lost everything, I'm isolated. So to have a human being who I know I can call them, or they're going to be with me. They understand if I change, if I waffle, if I want to follow through, we're going to go to court.
Right,
Okay?
when you're ready.
Okay, maybe you've been strangled. We may have to take you to Nova where they have a special unit
Right.
to just examine you, because strangulation, I may not see the marks.
Right.
Or it might be something you need to go to a shelter. That's our hotline.
Right.
And a safety place where you know you and your children are in a safe spot, confidentiality.
Right,
They,
because even we as volunteers, we don't know the location
You can't.
of the safe houses.
That's right.
They don't even let us know. We
Exactly.
actually talk to them and then we turn them over to someone else. I can't tell you where they are. We're not supposed to know. The whole purpose is so that that
There
person
you
is
go.
safe and secure.
There you go. And not only think how the children must feel. You know, you don't have to worry, is anybody stalking you? You know,
Right.
And now with such great electronic and IT, it is so easy. And I
is.
would advise people, take the Tier 1 training. Take the training that deals with IT and DV.
You
It will
should.
blow your mind now how I can stalk you, how I can intimidate you. So if I got that person in the shelter and then they finally say, I want to do some more. They may want to say, I want a protective order,
Right.
which deals with their safety, which orders the person out of the house. And most of all, the judge orders no further contact and no further DV. Do you know what a feeling that is?
That's freedom.
And it's freedom, but not only I got the advocate sitting right next to me. I got a courtroom. I have an attorney, a volunteer attorney,
right.
called the Attorney of the Day. In fact, at the next week we're going to be celebrating that of recruitment of volunteer lawyers from all big firms who want to help DV victims.
This is awesome.
Just think about that. And we fought for that. I
Right.
remember, and to see this, that's why I keep thinking it's like a pot of stew. It's synergy. The individual parts, when you put them together, they're worth more than their own individual. And I've seen this development.
Right.
Yeah, I'm old. I've seen this development. But you know what? I see it even going further. So if we got somebody going to court, now we're going to do the PPO. We got great intake officers.
Right.
And these folks, what are they great at? Listening skills.
That's why I was so excited about it, because I said, this is the one thing, I'm a talker, but now I learned how to listen.
Listen, empathize, make them feel comfortable. So when you come to J&DR court, you come to room 202, you'll see toys, all sorts of toys. And domestic relation always has 25 pounds of chocolate. All sorts of chocolate and Tootsie Roll Pops. Why? Because sometimes a piece of chocolate can relax you. Or we'll serve you a cup of coffee.
Right.
Because you have to remember, DV covers all certain aspects and we go by the code.
Right.
And what's your family relationship. But once we've got that established, you have two ways of working it. You can either file an affidavit, which is a document which will go before the judge, and the judge will read it and make a decision, should I grant a temporary protective order. The other way, which most people select, is to appear before a judge in the afternoon. And that's a freedom way. Think about it now.
Right.
I've got my advocate with me. I've got other people to support me. And you just want to tell your story to the judge.
Right.
And the judge, our judges are just wonderful. I'm not saying because I work for the court, but I know all of these judges. They really have made a commitment to the issue of domestic violence. So as a result, if a temporary protective, we call it a preliminary protective order is granted, there's a piece of paper, there's more than a piece of paper, it says no contact, no further physical violence, may give you temporary custody.
What now, Laura, what would cause it not to be granted?
It could be, well, if there's not imminent risk and danger, it may not fit the definition. There are two ways. If it's intimate partner violence, we're going to hit. If it's family abuse, which means all the relationships.
Okay.
If it's not, then it could go to general district court.
Oh, okay.
All right? A judge has a very important role. And our judges, sometimes they may hear 3 cases a day. I've seen it one time, they had up to 15 cases. And they only got a half an hour and an hour to hear this part.
Wow.
And so they're asking specific questions. And that is part of our job of the victim advocate and the intake officer to prepare them for court so they know what to expect.
Right.
And then we have our sheriffs are there to provide that security.
And feel safe.
If it is granted, the judge will go over those areas. As I said, it's always no contact, no more physical violence. It may include the children,
Right.
other members of the family, utilities. You can't even take the car. Whoever it's I don't want to say deeded your registration, but they look at all of those areas. All right. Now, after that, you get a copy of that order. That intake officer and that advocate is going to be with you till till you get and leave that building, all right? You're going to get a copy of that, but not only during that time, and that's why I call it a synergy, the court clerks are going to process that material real quickly.
Okay.
Because they got to get that to the sheriffs. And that's my shout outs to the state clerks and also to the sheriffs. You see, sheriffs have a very important role, and so do our clerks. Someone's got to enter that information in the computer.
Right.
And I could give you the technical terms, but it's given into a system that if that batterer gets stopped, the police can pull that up and see.
Oh, so it's linked to the system where they're...
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So that sheriff wants to get that information as soon as possible. And our head sheriff has taken this commitment to make sure that we give all our resources. And can I tell you, these sheriffs, and again, I've known a lot of, this is an awesome job. They will make sure if in the evening or whatever, to serve that protective order on them. See, until it's served on them,
it doesn't exist.
It's to me, it's nothing but a wet piece of paper.
Wow.
Okay, and they make sure it's served. Also, the victim is notified, or they can contact to make sure has that protective order been served, which is really important. And the victim is going to carry a copy of that order with them at all times.
Okay.
All right. So if the batterer in any way violates it, they can go to the magistrate or they can call the police and say, Harry has done this, come and help me. Right. See, that's a holistic way. Then you again have those advocates who are trying to make a decision. What do you need during this time? You notice they can help you, but they can't tell you what you need.
Right, what do you need is basically how I'm gonna.
And that's where, again, when I look at the Domestic Violence Action Center, which is part of the Department of Family Services,
yes.
All right, we start to think, what do you need? You know, how are you going to make it? That is the reason I see so many victims go back from their old days. What are you going to do economically?
Yeah, I've never worked before.
Exactly.
I have no job. I have no means.
Exactly. I
Who's
have
gonna
no
pay my
family.
rent? I have no.
Now you got it. How do I explain to my employer, well, I've been out. I've got to go to court. All right. Maybe I had some heavy makeup and they just thought I like heavy makeup.
Makeup, right. Meanwhile, I'm hiding
right.
bruises.
What am I going to do about my children? Think about it. These children are exposed. And now we have a new position, as I reminded you on, to deal with children exposed to DV. And this person, Brittany Vera, is going to go out and recruit resources and get the word through. To me, that's where I go. Again, it's like that shot. I'm going to infect you.
Right.
And it's like preaching. I'm going to share the word
Yep.
about what is needed. All right? That's what that victim advocate does. In addition to that, we have another court date in 15 days. A lawyer has now been assigned to you who's going to interview you. And you imagine interviewing someone when they've been traumatized. You know, I want to tell you the whole story. I might want to tell you my husband had a past affair. I want to tell you. And you're trying to help them. That lawyer has to get that information and has to present your case in court. And all I can tell you, I tell everybody who wants to learn about DV, they need to come to the court.
Oh, well, folks, until we meet again, think about what you can do to make your community better. Thanks for tuning in to Small Talk. I'm Sharon, your host. Have a wonderful day.